Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're having a fantastic Christmas Eve, whatever you're doing. But I thought, let's do the Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest preview. Give you a bit of a United Stand fix, whatever you're doing. Tucking into your quality street, sipping on a mulled wine. We've got the preview for you. And I tell you what, I think it's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting game against Forest. Remember, this is not on Boxing Day. Man United get Boxing Day off. We're playing on Tuesday night, which is the day after Boxing Day, 8 o'clock kickoff. Brilliant stuff. Looking forward to it. So, look, preview of this game. We'll get straight into it. But I just want to say from the off, interesting, isn't it, that we play Nottingham Forest and never has a game looked more like a 2-0 win than this. And that could get clipped. It could come out to bite us. But if you look at Forest, and I'm not really massive into these sort of stats, they are bottom of the league in the away record. They're third from bottom in the real table, but they're bottom of the league for away form. One goal in 7 away games. 1 goal in 7 away games. 2 points in 7 away games. So 2 points from 21. But 1 goal. They are abysmal away from home. And these are the sort of games that Nottingham Forest should be getting beaten comfortably at Old Trafford. Like 3 or 4-0. I remember under Sir Alex, you'd roll into a game like this. He'd make 3 or 4 changes. Phil Neville would play and you'd win comfortably. And we need to, if we want to beat the best and we want to compete with the best, then you've got to start consistently beating these sort of teams in these sort of scenarios and progress to a point where you can make 2 or 3 changes. Obviously, we're not at that point at the moment, and we're not going to be at that point even if we beat Forest on Tuesday night. We're going to have to, work to find that consistency. But I do feel that it's a real opportunity for United to kick on after the break. We're not top 4 at the moment. I think there is this belief that we can get top 4, and hopefully we can, but we're not top 4 at the moment. So you've got to start closing that gap on teams ahead of us, because I'm really intrigued to see how the weekend's fixtures go. Liverpool are playing Villa. There are other games where other teams can drop points as well. So we need to start kicking in, and especially with Wolves coming away on New Year's Eve. Very important that we win this game and win it. I'm going to go 3 or 4-0. I don't think Forest are a very good side. I think they just chucked a load of money to try and solve a problem and stay up, and they're disjointed. Am I worried about Jesse Lingard returning to Old Trafford? Only if he's wearing a Man United shirt. I don't care about him returning in a Forest shirt or any other shirt or a West Ham shirt. I wish him all the best, but not Man United quality for me. And I think we will win. In relation to the team I've got on the screen here, now very interesting. United, fantastic today. They had a fan come and visit them at Carrington, so there was pictures and meet and greets and that. And what we got to learn from that, it was around midday today. They put the pictures out on Christmas Eve. There's no Harry Maguire in those pictures. Now, Harry Maguire's the captain, so you'd expect him to be front and centre. He wasn't. So Harry Maguire's still ill, we think. Christmas Day tomorrow, Man United might train. If he's back, then maybe he plays on Tuesday night, tomorrow being Sunday. But it looks like a bit of a stretch for Harry Maguire to be ready to play on Tuesday. I've put him in my team, though, because I just think that Varane and Martinez will be back for Wolves. And if Maguire, after a good World Cup, wants any chance of getting back into that United starting lineup, he's got to start against Forest and he's got to play well. So I am going to put Maguire in my team based on that. I just think even if he has to take a load of Lemsip, he will be there. But look, maybe he won't. And if he isn't there, it'll probably be Casemiro. So let's go through my predicted lineup. De Gea obviously comes back in goal. I've got Lindelof and Maguire there. If Maguire doesn't make it, it will have to be Casemiro at centre-back and McTominay in midfield, which weakens us, but I still think we'd have enough. Luke Shaw left back. Now right back's very interesting. Aaron Wan-Bissaka played well the other night. Why have I gone with Malacia? Because Malacia played against Fulham, and look, I totally agree that Wan-Bissaka gives you balance with the right foot at right back. But if Wan-Bissaka is not part of Ten Hag's plans, which is what we've been told, then why would he bench Malacia, who is? Now I know Malacia is playing out of position, but he played there against Fulham and he did reasonably well. And Forest are not a top side, so I think Malacia will start. If Wan-Bissaka does start, then maybe that means that there's an opportunity for him to stay until the summer. I mean, we're still waiting on an update from Dalot and what his injury is. I mean, I don't think we've seen Dalot training with United yet, but maybe Dalot's injury is not as bad as we thought. But I have a feeling that Dalot won't be playing for United until the new year. So it'll be interesting to see what we do at right back. Casemiro, Bruno, Ericsson pick themselves. Obviously, if Maguire's out, then Casemiro will drop into centre-back and McTominay will come in probably. And then you're left with a front three with Rashford off the left, Martial down the middle. And I would play Antony. Now, some people would say Garnacho, but we spent £85 million on Antony. And what we can't afford to do is what happened with Sancho, where a brand new player, let's feed him in gradually. I think you've got to get him in the team and get him used to playing for Manchester United. And I think it was probably right not to start him in the Carabao Cup, but I think he needs to start against Forest. And as I said in the week, it's time for Antony to step up. And this is the perfect game for him to do that. So I certainly would start Antony in this game. And I think that team, at the moment, obviously, we haven't got our first choice centre-backs with Varane and Martinez, but you add Varane and Martinez into that team, and it doesn't look bad, does it? You know, De Gea, Varane, Martinez, obviously Delo would be at right-back, Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Ericsson, Bruno, Antony, Martial, Rashford. That's a team that can get top four, and I think for this season, we need to put that team out as much as possible. How we build out in the future, that team is not good enough to win the title, the one I've just mentioned. It isn't. You know, you need another midfielder, you need another right back, you need another striker. We need 4 or 5 top quality players to come in. But we are going into a key period of time now, and we have to beat Forest on Tuesday. And I mean, I don't want to put pressure on the team because that's the last thing you want to do. But when you're playing a team that's scored 1 goal in 7 away games, you know, you keep a clean sheet for a start, and then at Old Trafford you score, and then you get 3 points. I'd like to see us win 3 or 4-0. I think there was a hint against Burnley that we can play better than we did against Burnley, and we still created a lot of chances. I do think that Martial was rusty against Burnley, but I think all the players that didn't go to the World Cup look rusty, so they're going to come back into form. I think people like Rashford, Casemiro, Bruno, and a few others who did go to the World Cup look absolutely in the groove at the moment. We've got to be very, very careful about volume of games. It's ridiculous. Remember, we play Forest on Tuesday. We then play Wolves away on the Saturday. I think we then play Bournemouth midweek. Then I think we play Everton in the Cup, and then midweek we play Charlton, and then we play another Premier League game, and it's just relentless, absolutely relentless for United. And there's no way you're going to be able to keep picking the same players every 3 or 4 days, and how we're going to deal with that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think... The thing that worries me about United, and I suppose Christmas Eve as we approach the end of the year and we can reflect, I think that worries me about United is, I've said this a few times and we've seen it in the past quite a lot. I mean, you look at the World Cup, that's the most recent thing. That French team, so much depth. England, so much depth. Brazil, so much depth. You look at someone like Croatia, on their day they can beat anybody. But across a tournament, it's very difficult to go and win it because they're lacking in a couple of areas in their first 11, and they don't really have much beyond their first 11 in most areas. I look at United this season and I go, you know what? On our day, we can beat Barcelona. On our day, we can beat Arsenal. On our day, we can win a Carabao Cup, a Europa League, get top 4, an FA Cup. But it's not about on your day, is it? In fact, on our day we can beat somebody is probably one of the most pointless comments there is, because it's not about on your day. It's about over 60 games, because that's how many you're going to play. And we are logically going to really struggle to consistently play well when you're asking your best 11 to play every 3 or 4 days for 5 months. And I just don't think we've got the quality beyond that. You know, if Casemiro has to play at centre-back because Maguire's out and Varane and Martinez are still recovering from the World Cup, Scott McTominay comes into midfield and he hides from taking the ball and he's not that good. If Ericsson gets tired, Fred comes into midfield and, you flip a coin on what you're going to get. If Bruno gets injured, who are we playing at number 10? Because Donny van der Beek's been terrible. If Rashford gets injured, you're relying on people like Alanga. If Martial gets injured, you're putting Rashford up for an out of position. If Delo gets injured, you're using a player, you're trying to sell in Wan-Bissaka, or you're using a left back at right back in Malacia. So that's the point I'm trying to make. It's I'm not trying to depress people on Christmas Eve, far from it, but I do think that there is a logical conversation to be had that with Manchester United, we are a very good team with a first 11, and I think that first 11 that I mentioned before with Varane and basically this team with Varane, Martinez and Delo coming in, we're good enough to get top four. We're good enough to beat most teams. We're good enough to win most of the trophies we're competing in. But how much will the volume of games and the lack of squad depth hurt us? I think it will hurt us a lot, because at some point we're going to lose 3 or 4 players that get tired or injured. At some point, 5 or 6 players are going to, drop form because they're tired. Hopefully that's going to impact on every team, but that's going to be the challenge for us this year. But in the short term, I think, conversely, the fact that the World Cup players actually look very sharp because they've been training for 6 weeks, intensely, and playing in a major tournament, so they look quite sharp. I think end of January into February is when they're going to start getting tired. And as we know, the January transfer window is going to be what it's all about ultimately, and can we utilise that in a way that, I mean, look, I'd love to bring 3 or 4 players in. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. But I'd like to bring 2 players in, or at least bring some players back from loan just to supplement what we've got. The big problem we've got is the players that are beyond the first team don't look massively motivated to me. Whether it's... Well, I'm not going to name names because it's not fair, but anybody who comes into that team just doesn't really look like they're making a huge difference. Garnacho is probably the exception, but and I think Malacia as well as a new signing. But the rest of them are probably players that have been here for 2-3 years. We need to revolutionise that squad, basically. In fact, I did a video on Sky Sports actually today when I was on Saturday Social, and they said 5 players to make Man United compete again. And the 5 players were Gusto from Lyon, Kim Min-jae from Napoli, Enzo Fernandez from Benfica, Gakpo from PSV, and Osimhen from Napoli. Now, those 5 players added to our squad would make us be able to challenge. I don't know whether we'd win the league, but they'd make us be able to challenge, because suddenly those 5 players, supplemented to what we've got, they can't all play. So it immediately strengthens your bench. It immediately allows rotation, so that, when you're playing Forest at home, you start Osimhen, and then when you're playing Wolves away, you could start Martial. When you're playing Forest at home, you could play Gusto, and then when you're playing Wolves away, you could play Dalot. Midfield, you could rest Eriksen to play Enzo. That's where we're not at the moment. We're not at that point where we can just rotate with quality. And I think we've already seen that from Ten Hag. He's reluctant to rotate a lot of the time, as many of us would be, because the quality just isn't there, is it? But that's something we're going to not solve in January. That's something we're going to have to try and solve in the summer. I think this season for me, as we reflect on the year, this season for me is about getting Champions League football and hopefully a trophy. If we won 2 trophies and get top 4, that's ridiculous. For me, if we get top 4 and win the Carabao Cup, that's a good season for United from where we were. But even that might be hard, because we've all lived it. We've all seen in the past, April, May, where you've had a hard season, and we had it last year. Like, Ranić could barely pick a team in the last few games. Players were just dropping like flies. And I think it will happen again this year, but we'll see. But I do think we've got momentum at the moment, and when you've got momentum, you've got to grab the points. So Forest, Wolves, Bournemouth, that's got to be 9 points. We've got to take 9 points from the next 3 games, and that will put us in a good position, because what you cannot do, and what we have done, is when you know you're going to have a really difficult February, March, April, May with fatigue, you can't be dropping points to Villa back in October. You've got to accumulate the points. So it's essential that United beat Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth to give us that 9 points, because maybe everyone else starts dropping points, but if you're in the top 4, at least you're in the top 4, and that's what we've got to do. Win the next 3 games, get ourselves in the top 4, and then see what everyone else does, because yeah, we are going to struggle with fatigue, we are going to struggle with volume of games, but so are Spurs, so are Arsenal, so are Chelsea, so are Liverpool. So get yourself in that top 4. It's a very competitive Premier League, and this is why I think Newcastle have got a great chance of top 4, because they're already there. They will spend in January, and they've got no European football. I want United to be in the top 4 ASAP, because I think the Premier League is ridiculously competitive this year, and once you're there, it's not, what I'm trying to say is, it's not easy to make up a 6-point gap. I know people say, well, you've got a game in hand and this, that and the other, but if we're saying the Premier League's competitive, then it's not easy to make up a 6-point gap, because every game is competitive. So win the next 3, get yourself in there, and let's start battling for that top 4 spot. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Just a quick video. Make sure you smash a like on the video. I hope you're all having a fantastic Christmas. We've got a fantastic video going up for you tomorrow, which is our year review. where we go back through the whole year and all my reactions. So watch out for that tomorrow. Back live on Boxing Day morning, unless anything breaks tomorrow, which is unlikely on a Christmas day. So take care, everybody, whatever you're doing. Stay safe. We've got a fantastic community. Love to you all, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. Merry Christmas. Thumbs up.